I got a promotion at work, then found out it was a setup to fire me. They gave me a new title, a raise, and a fake smile. Then I learned the truth, it was never a reward. It was a trap. I had been working at Great Tech Innovations for 5 years, started as a junior assistant. Then moved up to marketing. Bit by bit, I climbed the ladder. I stayed late, took weekend calls, handled last-minute messes, wasn't just an employee, I was their fixer, the one who got things done when no one else could. Then one morning in October, my boss, Mr. Delaney, called me into his office. Shut the door, he said with a strange smile. I did. He gestured to the chair across from him. You've been here how long, Megan? 5 years, I said, sitting down. He nodded. You've earned something. I blinked. Earned? He leaned forward. We're promoting you. I froze. My heart jumped. Promoting me? To director of strategy. He slid a folder toward me. Inside was a contract. A huge salary jump. Company laptop. Reserved parking, and a full benefits package. My hands trembled. I don't know what to say. He smiled. Say yes. I did. Of course I did. That night I went home beaming. I popped a bottle of cheap champagne, told my boyfriend, Tyler. He hugged me so hard I spilled half the drink. This is huge, babe, he said. You deserve this. I thought so too. After 5 years of grinding, it finally paid off. Or so I thought. The first few weeks were hectic. Meetings with executives. A new assistant. An office with a view. Everyone treated me differently. Some congratulated me. Others gave fake smiles, but I ignored the tension. I was too focused on proving myself. Then the tasks started piling up. But not normal ones. Weird ones. Things I wasn't trained for. Like dealing with investor reports. Or budget audits. Or sensitive internal documents I'd never touched before. I didn't question it. I just did the work. Until I made my first mistake. One morning, HR emailed me. Said I'd misfiled a compliance form. That's something about tax reporting. Panicked, I checked the files. They'd given me the wrong folder from the start. I told them that. They said they'd look into it. But the tone was cold. Something had shifted. Tyler noticed first. You're not sleeping, he said. You're grinding harder than ever. I just want to do it right, I said. But deep down, I felt it too. Something wasn't right. Then one day my assistant Grace came in. She looked nervous. Hey, I think you should know something. What is it? She glanced at the door. Lowered her voice. I overheard Delaney in the break room. He said something like, she paused. Let her keep digging her own grave. It's almost over anyway. I froze. What? She nodded. I don't know what it means, but be careful. That night I couldn't sleep. His words echoed in my mind. Digging my own grave. What did that mean? Was I being set up? I started going back through my work. Line by line. Email by email. Looking for anything off. And that's when I saw it. A document I was asked to submit was altered after I sent it. My name was on the file. But someone had changed the numbers. Made it look like I approved a false expense report. I double-checked everything. I hadn't done that. I would never approve fake numbers. But the file was in my name. The next morning, I went straight to IT. I asked if they could pull metadata from the file. They said no. Company policy. Only managers could request that. Was a manager, but apparently not high enough. I left with a pit in my stomach. That Friday, I was called into HR. Room 214. 2 people were waiting. Mr. Delaney and a woman I didn't know, Sarah from legal. Megan, have a seat, Sarah said. My legs felt like lead. She slid a thick file toward me. Do you recognize this report? I looked down. It was the altered one. I swallowed hard. Yes, but that's not the version I submitted. Mr. Delaney leaned back. Then who did? I don't know. Sarah raised an eyebrow. You're the only one with access. That wasn't true, but I couldn't prove it. Not yet. The meeting ended coldly. They said they were investigating. But I knew what that meant. They were building a case. A case against me. I called Tyler that night. Told him everything. He didn't hesitate. You're being framed. But why? I asked. He was silent for a moment. Then he said something that changed everything. Remember what you told me about the last director of strategy? I paused. Yeah, Rachel. She was fired suddenly last year. Exactly. He said. And didn't she say she was framed too? My heart skipped. She had. I found her on LinkedIn. I sent her a message. Didn't expect her to reply. But she did. We met at a quiet diner the next day. Her eyes were tired. She looked over her shoulder twice before sitting. I'm guessing you're here because you got the promotion. I nodded. Yeah. She sighed. I told them not to do this to someone else. Do what? I asked. She leaned in. They used me. They made me approve documents I didn't understand. Then blamed me when something went wrong. It was a setup. I blinked. Why? She shook her head. Delaney's trying to protect someone higher up. There's embezzlement. False reporting. They need a fall person every year. You're it? I felt sick, like I was going to throw up right there in the booth. Rachel looked at me. I tried to fight it. But I had no proof. They stripped my reputation. Blacklisted me from the industry. I drove home in a daze, heart racing. Hands shaking. Everything made sense now. The sudden promotion. The overload of tasks. The missing files. The altered reports. It wasn't reward. It was bait. But I wasn't going down like that. Not quietly, not like Rachel. I took the next week to prepare. I backed up every file, every email. Every change. Printed timelines. Kept a journal. I even bought a second phone, just like the one I'd found in Ethan's pocket years ago. Only this time, it was mine, for safety, for evidence. Then I made a fake mistake, on purpose. Submitted a report with a specific error. But I saved my real version separately. I wanted to see if someone would alter it, again, and they did. Just 2 days later, the file was changed, the timestamp altered, and this time, I had a screen recording of the original. I brought everything to HR. Met with Sarah directly, alone. I laid out all the evidence, all of it. She looked at me in disbelief. Why didn't you come forward sooner? I tried, I said. But no one listens until the fire's already burning. Sarah went quiet. Then she sighed. This isn't the first complaint about Delaney. I said nothing. She stood up. I'll escalate this. A week later, Delaney was gone. Fired. Escorted out. Our chair didn't say much. But the office whispered loudly. They said someone finally outed the snake. Rachel emailed me. Whatever you did, thank you. They offered to keep me in the position. I declined. Too many ghosts in that office. Too many fake smiles. Too much poison in the walls. I left Greatech on a Friday afternoon, cleared my desk, shut the door behind me. No tears. No bitterness. Just peace. The next Monday, I started a new job. At a startup. Smaller team, transparent leadership. They knew my story, respected me for standing up. That night, I wrote in my journal, I thought I got a promotion. But what I really got was a warning, and I turned it into a weapon. Starting over wasn't easy, even after exposing the truth at Greatech. Even after watching Delaney walk out of that building in shame. A part of me still felt unsettled, like my name was marked, like I was carrying the shadow. But this new company, Brightlane Media, felt like a breath of fresh air. Smaller team, open door policies. No fake smiles. No quiet traps. On my first day, the founder, Julia, greeted me at the door. You're Megan? She said, smiling wide. Come in, we've been waiting. The team was young. Creative. Excited. I wasn't used to that energy anymore. At Greatech, every room felt heavy. Like someone was always watching. But here, people looked me in the eye. I settled in fast. I helped improve their internal systems, their outreach campaigns. Their brand messaging. And people actually thanked me, respected me. But even as I moved forward, Greatech haunted me. Especially when I got messages from women I didn't know, LinkedIn, DMS. Emails. All saying the same thing. I think I'm going through what you went through. At first I ignored them. I wasn't ready to relive it, but then I got one message that stopped me cold. They promoted me just like you. And now they're threatening to fire me for a mistake I didn't make. Her name was Tanya. She was in a different company, different state, but the same exact pattern. I replied. Carefully. Kindly. And suddenly more messages came in. Not just from Greatech survivors, but from women across industries. All set up, all silenced, all afraid. That's when I decided I had to do something. I started a private blog, titled The Promotion Trap. Just a small space. To tell my story, what happened, how I noticed the red flags, how I fought back. I didn't expect more than 20 readers, but overnight, it exploded. Thousands of views, dozens of shares. And comments that made my heart ache. This happened to me. I thought I was alone. I never knew this was a pattern. And just like that, I became the voice for people who had none. Brightlane noticed too. Instead of warning me to stay quiet, Julia called me into her office. Sat across from me. And said, if you ever want to turn this into something bigger. We'll support you. I blinked. You mean like a side project? She smiled. I mean a movement. That was how it all began. The blog became a podcast. The podcast became a series. Stories from women all over the country. One by one, we lit matches in the dark. But not everyone liked what I was doing. One day, I got a package at my door. No name. No sender. Inside was a single photo. It was me, leaving Greatech on my last day. On the back, someone had written, keep talking and we'll talk louder. I stared at it for hours, hands shaking. I called Tyler, showed it to him. He was furious. We should go to the police, he said, but there was no proof. No name. No fingerprints. Still, I filed a report. They took it seriously, but couldn't do much. Suggested I get cameras for my home. And stay alert. So I did. That night, I posted a message on the blog. Not with fear, but with fire. You can try to scare me. But I survived worse than silence. I survived the trap, and now I'm building the door to let others out. The next day, that post had 100,000 views, and a new message landed in my inbox from a whistleblower. Her name was Karen. She worked at a corporate firm in New Jersey, and she had screenshots, emails, proof of coordinated terminations after fake promotions, dozens of women in different branches, all told they were being rewarded. Then blamed. Then erased. We got on a call. Her voice shook. I've been holding this for years. I'm scared. But I promised her she wasn't alone anymore. I brought her story onto the podcast. We blurred her name, changed her voice. But the story hit hard. And with it came more whistleblowers. Now, it wasn't just a blog or a podcast. It was a movement. Media outlets picked it up. The promotion trap. How corporate America is silencing women through fake power. The next month, I was invited to speak at a national panel. The woman who introduced me said, Megan's story is not just one of survival, it's one of fire. I stood on that stage, looking out in a sea of faces, some scared, some angry, some hopeful, and I said, I once thought getting a promotion was the best day of my life, but it was the start of my undoing. And yet here I am. Not broken, not bitter, just brighter. Because I took what was meant to destroy me, and I turned it into fuel. Now we light torches together, and no one gets to blow them out again. After the panel, a woman in her 60s came up to me, tears in her eyes. She whispered, I was fired in 1998 for a mistake my male boss made. They told me I was too emotional to lead. But hearing you today, I finally feel seen. That moment, that was worth everything. The pain, the betrayal, the fear. Back at Bright Lane, Fins blossomed. Julia created a company-wide training on promotion, ethics. Transparency. Support systems. And she credited me openly, not out of pity, but out of respect. And then one day, I got another message from someone I never thought I'd hear from again. Mr. Delaney. It was short, just a few lines. You made your point. Congratulations, but you ruined careers. I stared at it, laughed bitterly. Then replied, I didn't ruin careers. I exposed the ones already built on lies. I blocked him, and I never looked back. Months passed. Our podcast won an award. We raised money to create a legal support fund, and I kept speaking. Writing. Rising. One night, sitting by the fireplace, Tyler looked at me. He took my hand and asked, You ever wish it never happened? I thought about it. Then said softly, Sometimes, but if it didn't, I'd still be quiet. And now I'm loud. Because in a world where silence was expected, I chose the opposite, and now, so did thousands of others. This is no longer just my story, it's a revolution. It had been a year since I launched the blog. The promotion trap was now more than just words online. It was a name, a symbol, community. Thousands had joined. Women, men, people from every kind of job. All sharing the same fear, that promotions sometimes came with poison. I never thought one bad day at Graytech would lead to this. I never thought losing that job would help me find my voice. One morning, I woke up to a message from a woman named Chloe. She worked in healthcare. She was quiet. Nervous. Scared. But her message was loud. I just got promoted. My manager smiled, but something felt wrong. Then 3 weeks later, they found mistakes in my patient forms, but I never touched those records. It was all too familiar. Same trap. Different place. She didn't know what to do. I offered a call. She cried within minutes. They're trying to push me out, she said. I worked so hard. Why would they do this? I didn't have a good answer, but I knew what we could do next. I connected her to our new project, Promotion Defense Network. A team of volunteers, lawyers, writers, tech experts, investigators, all fighting back. Chloe got support. A review was launched inside her hospital. The digital records showed the files were accessed by someone else, a senior doctor. He resigned 2 weeks later. Chloe kept her job and her dignity. She sent me a letter in the mail, not email. Handwritten. I thought I was done. Then I found you. Thank you for fighting when I couldn't. I kept that letter on my desk. Still do. Meanwhile, Bright Lane Media kept growing. Julia became more than a boss. She became my partner in everything. She gave me space to build the mission. She helped turn my pain Into purpose. We launched workshops. Webinars.live. Events. We taught people how to Gives read contracts clearly. Gives protect their digital trails. Gives identify early red flags. Gives speak up without losing everything. We called it Rise Before the Fall. Because too many people fall first. Then suffer. In silence, but while the outside world cheered for us. Greatech was quiet. Too quiet. Until one day, they worked out an investigative journalist reached out. Her name was Ava. Kim. Sharp. Focused. Fearless. She had been working on a deep report about corruption inside Greatech, and she needed my help. We met in a coffee shop near my apartment. She slid a folder across the table. Inside leaked memos. Meeting notes. Budgets. And worst of all, a list of names. Dozens of them. Employees who had been promoted and then fired within 90 days. Most of them were women. Some were disabled. Some were single mothers. The internal term they used shocked me. Soft squeeze exits. That's what they called it. Promote, overload, frame, fire. All on paper. All methodical. I sat there, hands trembling, heart pounding. This wasn't just an accident. This was a plan. Ava looked at me. I want to publish everything. I want your story front and center. I hesitated. Not because I was scared, but because I knew the cost of it would be loud, that it would be messy, and some people would call me bitter. Dramatic. Angry. But I was done caring. I nodded. Let's burn the whole thing down. The story dropped on a Monday. Front page. National coverage. Greatech under fire for fake promotions, discrimination, and retaliation. My face was on the cover, alongside Rachel and Chloe, and two others who stepped forward. We weren't hiding anymore. The internet exploded. Hashtag promotion trap trended for 4 days. People protested outside Greatech HQ. Employees walked out. And finally, Congress called for an inquiry. I received a subpoena. I testified, sworn under oath. Face to face with lawyers and CEOs and cameras, told the truth. Every detail. Every document, every lie. And when I walked out, I felt 10 pounds lighter. Greatech tried to spin it, blamed a few rogue managers, said they'd do better. But nobody was buying it. Their stocks dropped. Their board changed, and their silence broke. They sent me a legal notice, asking me to cease and desist defamation. My lawyer left. We filed a counterclaim, had the receipts. They didn't stand a chance. Then something unexpected happened. I got an offer from a major media company. They wanted to buy the rights to my story, podcast, book, TV series. At first, I said no. It wasn't about money. It wasn't about fame. But then I thought about every woman who messaged me at 3 afraid, alone, unheard. And I realized visibility is power. So I said yes, on my terms. We started filming the series the next year. I was an executive producer. Hands on. I made sure the story was raw. Real. Respectful. Not dramatized. Not watered down. The actress playing me was kind. Nervous. But dedicated. She asked me questions every day. What did you feel in that moment? What would you say if you had the chance again? My answer was always the same. I'd say nothing. I just walk away stronger. The first episode aired in the fall. It was called The Promotion. It hit #1 within 24 hours. Critics called it chillin', powerful, and essential. Tyler cried when he watched it. He held my hand and said, "You did it. You didn't just survive, you changed something real." By the end of that year, Give's 6 companies had revised their internal promotion practices. Give's 3 lawsuits were filed against corporate firms using soft squeeze exits. Give's and over 300 women reported that their jobs were saved because they knew the signs. That was the power of the story. It wasn't about me anymore. It was about them. The ones still fighting, still climbing, still scared. One afternoon, I got an email from my old assistant Grace, the one who warned me in the beginning. Subject line: still watching you win. Message: I left Greatech 2 years ago. But I never forgot what you taught me, that staying quiet helps the wrong people stay powerful. I'm now the VP of people at a new startup. And I made your podcast required listening. I cried. Happy tears. Because what started as a trap became a torch. Now we host annual conferences. We built a hotline. We published a survival guide. And every person who walks through our doors knows this pain has a purpose. Some people say, maybe you're too obsessed. Why not move on? Why keep telling the same story? And I say because it keeps happening. Because someone else is opening that fake congrats email right now. And because I promised that if I made it out, I'd hold the door open, and I will, every time. I never thought a fake promotion would lead to a national movement. But here we were, a year after the series aired. 3 years since I left Greytech. 5 years since I first got that call about the promotion. Life had changed, people knew. My name, the book I released, The Promotion Trap, What They Never Told You About Corporate Climbing, became a bestseller. We were invited to global panels, universities, HR conferences. Still, the messages kept coming, every day. They promoted me to fire me. They made me feel like I was finally valued. Then they turned it all into a reason to get rid of me. It never got easier to read them, but it reminded me why I kept going. One day I received the letter in the mail. No return address. That inside was a single line written in black pen: "You're helping the wrong people." That was it. No name, no threat. Just a warning. I held it for a while, thinking, wondering, was this fear, or was this truth? Later that night, I shared it with Julia. We were at the office late, planning the next workshop tour. She looked at it, then looked at me. "Megan, it's working." I nodded slowly, which is why they wanted to stop. That's when we realized this wasn't just about helping victims. It was about dismantling a system that profited off overworking, gaslighting, abusing trust, and using silence as a weapon. We doubled down, added legal clinics to our events, trained people on whistleblower protections, helped employees document everything safely. And 1 week later, we got our biggest email yet. It was from someone inside a massive retail chain. Anonymous, subject: systematic promotion-based terminations. I have proof. He attached files, over 200 names, dates, emails, internal spreadsheets, all marked with a code we recognized instantly. Pro temp. It meant promoted temporarily. It meant this person is not actually meant to stay. It meant they were already preparing your replacement before you even finished unpacking your new office. I read the file 3 times, hands cold, mouth dry. Then I said out loud, "This isn't just a few bad managers anymore." Julia looked up. "This is an entire culture." We called Ava Kim, the journalist. "She'd been waiting for something like this," she said. "This could be the biggest workplace scandal since Enron." Over the next month, we worked in secret, verifying documents, talking to sources, recording testimonies. People were terrified, but they were ready to speak. Then it happened. The story dropped. Front page again. Retail giant used fake promotions to quietly lay off thousands while dodging layoff laws. The company responded fast. Denying everything, blaming mistakes, claiming restructuring. But the internet didn't buy it. This time, people knew the signs. This time, people had words for it. This time, they had us. Former employees shared stories. Customers boycotted. Lawmakers opened investigations. Class action lawsuits flooded in. One of the whistleblowers sent me a message: "You gave us language for the abuse. You gave us power." That night I couldn't sleep. I lay awake in bed, watching the ceiling. Tyler reached for my hand. "You okay?" he asked. I nodded. But quietly I whispered, "Why did this have to happen to me to begin with?" There was a pause. Then he said, "Because you were strong enough to turn it into fire." In the morning, I woke up to a message that made me cry. It was from Rachel. The woman who had my job at Greytech before me. The first one they set up. "They took everything from me back then, but watching you fight gave it back to me. Piece by piece." She had been rehired at another firm. In a senior role, with a real promotion. This time, one that didn't come with sabotage. That day, I made a new decision. It was time to take the promotion trap international. We started with Canada, then the UK, then Australia. All had stories. Different companies. Same strategies. Same pain. Same pattern. I flew across the world, told my story again and again. Each time, I watched faces shift, from curiosity to horror to empowerment. One woman in India grabbed my hand after a talk. She said, "They made me believe I was crazy. But now I know they were just scared of my strength." Back home, our team grew. We hired more legal advisors, started a newsletter. Built a searchable database of reported traps. People could submit anonymously. Within weeks, over 10,000 reports came in. Then something wild happened. A company asked us to come in, not to investigate, but to audit them. To make sure they weren't following the trap pattern. They wanted to clean house. Change culture. Lead with transparency. We created a certification. PETA free workplace. Like being fair trade, but for ethics. Within 3 months, 24 companies signed up. It was working, really working. We weren't just reacting anymore. We were building something new. Something better. And then, one afternoon, I got an email from someone I never expected. Delaney. My former boss. The man who gave me that fake promotion. The man who watched me walk into a trap that he built himself. Subject: apology, or something like it. I stared at it, didn't open. It at first just sat there, remembering everything. The office, the lies, the fear. The look on his face when he realized I wasn't going to break. Then I opened it. It was short. You probably don't care what I say now, and that's fair. But I want you to know I was told to do it, and I did. I was weak. I was scared. You weren't supposed to fight back. You weren't supposed to win. But I'm glad you did. No apology. Not really, but I didn't need one. Because he was right, I wasn't supposed to win, but I did. I closed the email, blocked him again. And moved on. Some victories don't come with justice. Some come with silence. Peace. The kind you build from your own hands. We're now in 12 countries. The series has 3 seasons. And the promotion trap is taught in business schools. Can you believe that? A trap turned into a curriculum. At a college panel recently, a student asked me, "Do you forgive the people who tried to ruin you?" I paused. Then smiled. No. But I forgive myself for trusting them. That's the real trap sometimes. Thinking it's your fault, thinking it was your mistake, your weakness. But it never was. It never will be. Now, I walk into rooms knowing I deserve to be there. Not because someone handed me a fake title, but because I built the platform myself, and I'm not done. Not even close. It had been nearly 5 years since the day I walked into Mr. Delaney's office and heard the word promotion. That one word changed everything. But now, I had a new word. Legacy. That which started as survival became structure. What started as pain became power. The promotion trap was now a nonprofit, a podcast, a documentary, a global network of thousands. We were in 22 countries. Over 80,000 people had joined. And our hotline had saved over 600 jobs. But with growth came new challenges. Real ones. One day, we got a message from someone inside a government office. Yes, government. She said they were using a temporary promotion process to quietly move out employees over 40, especially women, especially minorities. Her name was Dina, and she was terrified. They told me I was the new face of our department, she wrote, but I wasn't even given access to the budget. Her voice shook when we got her on a call. I feel like they're just waiting for me to mess up, she sighed. They gave me the title, but not the tools. I'd heard this before. Too many times that it was the trap dressed in public praise, laced with silent sabotage. We helped her collect evidence, emails, schedules, system logs. And then we connected her with one of our senior legal volunteers. A week later, she filed a complaint, and suddenly, people in power started to panic. The department launched an internal investigation. 6 people were placed on leave, and Dina? She stayed. For the first time, she didn't have to run. She sent us a message afterward. I didn't just keep my job, I kept my sanity. You gave me words that saved me. We added her story to our growing case archive, and something occurred to me. We had gathered thousands of these stories, and it was time to put them somewhere they couldn't be ignored. So we built the Trap Map, a digital tool. An interactive map that showed where the trap had been reported, what company, what pattern, and how it was fought. It exploded. Within 1 week, the map had over 2 million views, and HR departments around the world started to pay attention. Some didn't like it, some called it bad for business. But the truth isn't always convenient. Sometimes it's loud. And necessary. We weren't trying to cancel companies, we were trying to change them. Then one night, Julia and I sat down in the office. Empty coffee cups, tired eyes, the glow of laptops. She looked at me and said, "Megan, you know what this needs now?" I raised an eyebrow. "What?" She smiled. "A summit." That's how the idea for the Climb Conference was born. A global summit. 3 days, workshops, panels, real stories. Real change. Not about blame. About better. We picked New York City. Big, bold, visible. People said we were crazy, too ambitious. Too political. Too dangerous. But we'd heard that before. And every time, we proved them wrong. When tickets went live, they sold out in 2 days. People flew in from gives Kenya, gives Brazil, gives South Korea, gives Germany, gives Australia, all for one thing, to tell the truth and change what truth had been twisted into. On the opening night, I stood backstage, heart pounding. I could hear the buzz of 5,000 people. I held my speech in my hand, but I already knew the words. The lights dimmed. My name was called, and I stepped onto the stage. Spotlights, screens, thousands of faces. And then silence. I began. 5 years ago, I was promoted to be destroyed. They gave me a raise and then waited for me to fail. But instead I rose, and then I built a ladder for others. Not because I had to, but because I refused to be the last person to fall into that trap. The room erupted, cheers, tears, clapping, but I didn't stop. Tonight is not about pain, it's about purpose. It's about never confusing the title with truth. And it's about rewriting what power really means. Not silence, not secrets, but support. After my talk, I walked backstage in tears. Julia hugged me. I think we started something even bigger, she whispered, and she was right. That weekend, the summit changed everything. 5 major companies pledged to Gives end unmonitored trial promotions. Gives add mental health support for all leadership positions. Gives create whistleblower protection inside every department. But that wasn't the highlight. The moment that shook me was a simple one. A young girl, no more than 18, came up to me after the final session. She was shaking, holding a notebook. I just want to say thank you, she said. I watched her documentary, and now I want to study labor law. I smiled, stunned. She looked up with wide eyes. I want to fight, like you. That was it, the whole reason right there. We weren't just stopping traps anymore. We were building defenders. The weeks after the summit were a blur. News outlets covered it nonstop. People called it the future of ethical work. We were offered funding from global NGOs. Celebrities tweeted about us. But even with all the attention, I stayed focused, because the real work still lived in boxes. In small offices. And whispered phone calls at 2 a.m. And then one day something happened I never expected. A company we once exposed publicly apologized. A real apology. No PR, Twish. No legal defense. They admitted fault. They asked for help to rebuild, and they let us in. We helped them redesign their entire system, created new leadership paths, trained their board. And 1 year later, they became our first official recovery partner. Proof that even broken systems can choose to be better. We documented the journey, turned it into a case study, and now, over 40 companies have signed on, because change is contagious. When it's built from truth. Tyler came home one night holding flowers. I smiled, he grinned. I heard someone's changing the world again, I laughed. But then he grew serious. Megan, you're not just fighting for fairness anymore. You're creating future leaders who won't accept anything less. That night, I wrote something in my journal. Power isn't what they give you. It's what you build when no one's watching, and I'm done waiting for permission. The world had changed. 5 years ago, I was silenced. Now, I was invited to speak on the biggest stage in the world, the United Nations. They were holding a global summit on workplace ethics, and they asked me to open it. I couldn't believe it at first, but it was real. The woman who once cried in a bathroom stall now stood in front of world leaders. When I walked into the UN building, I clutched the notes in my hand, the same way I held onto my truth all these years. Inside, I passed diplomats, advocates, survivors. And finally, I stepped onto that stage. The lights weren't blinding, because I had already walked through darkness. I looked out over the audience and began, "Thank you for having me. 5 years ago, I was given a fake promotion. They told me I was rising. But behind closed doors, they were setting my fall. That was the beginning of the end of who I was. But it was also the beginning of the truth." I paused. Let the silence settle. Then I continued. The trap I fell into wasn't rare. It wasn't a one-time mistake. It was a system, a pattern, used to remove voices before they became too loud. But I chose to be louder. And I found thousands more who did the same. Together, we didn't just speak, we built a movement. The crowd applauded. But I didn't stop. We launched the promotion trap to fight the lies. And now we're fighting at every level. Gives corporate accountability, gives legal reforms, gives global training, because dignity at work shouldn't be a privilege. It should be a right. After the speech, I met with ambassadors, policymakers, educators. They asked how we could bring the promotion trap into their countries. And just like that, the mission grew. We built a global coalition. 28 countries joined in. Each one promised to gives investigate reported traps, gives protect whistleblowers, gives create honest promotion systems. Meanwhile, back home, something beautiful was happening. A high school in Chicago started teaching our story in classrooms. They called it Ethics in Leadership. And guess what? Students loved it. They sent me drawings, essays, messages. One said, "You made me believe my voice matters, even when I'm young." Another wrote, "Now I know what to look out for. And how to help others too." I cried, real tears. Because now the next generation would grow up knowing how to spot traps before falling into them. One day, a girl named Leah sent me a video. She was 16. She had organized a school debate on power abuse. In the clip, she stood confidently and said, "Real power is shared, not hidden. And anyone using titles to silence others isn't a leader." She had never worked a job. Never stepped into an office, but she already understood. Everything we've been fighting for. She gave me hope. Back at the promotion trap, we expanded again. New departments, new tools, and a full training app. We called it Step Up. It guided employees through tough workplace moments. How to gives track changes, gives record safely, gives identify fake support. It also trained managers, real ones, the kind that wanted to lead with fairness. And companies began using it for onboarding because they didn't want to become the next scandal. One of the most emotional moments was at our 10-year anniversary gala. The room was full. Hundreds of people, survivors, leaders, lawyers, activists. I stood at the center, took the mic, and I told them, 10 years ago, I was scared. 10 years ago, I thought I had failed. But you showed me it wasn't failure. It was the beginning of something real. Then I asked, if you've ever survived a promotion trap, raise your hand. Dozens of hands rose. I choked up. Then I said, look around, you are not alone. We ended the night by lighting candles, each one for a survivor. As the room glowed, I looked around and whispered to myself, this is what healing looks like. Later that year, Greytech, yes, that same company, released a public statement. They admitted their past failures. They cited our movement, and they promised reforms. And guess what? They followed through. They hired former survivors as consultants, created real mentorship programs, and joined our recovery network. Was it perfect? No, but it was real. And it mattered. People often ask me, do you regret taking that promotion? And I always say, not for a second, because it broke me. But it also built me. It showed me the cracks in the system, so I could help seal them for someone else. And I will never stop. I don't wear a suit every day. I don't sit in a corner office, but I wake up every morning knowing I matter, knowing others do too. Knowing the title never defined me. The truth did. And that truth lives on. To anyone out there reading this, if you feel like your success is being used against you, if you're confused, afraid, lost, know this, you are not broken. You are not failing. You are standing at the edge of their trap, and you are about to step out. We are here, waiting with open hands, because the best kind of promotion isn't one they give you. It's the one you claim for yourself. And now, it's your turn to rise. The end.